Do not, do not fall into this trap of telling yourself, my presentation is my slide deck. Because here's the problem. The second you tell yourself, my presentation that I'm giving to the board or to these investors or to this conference is about the slide deck, you've basically destroyed your ability to be a good communicator. Now, am I saying it's impossible to use slides? No, I use slides. I use images all the time in my social media videos and other places. But it's a mindset change. And it is crucial you have this because I've seen it happen time and time again. An executive says, oh, I got to give a good presentation. Let me start. They bring their assistants in. Let's start with the presentation. And everyone instantly thinks about typing bullet points on slides. And before you know it, an hour of manpower, woman power time has gone into devoting into creating a slide, and then another hour, and then another hour. Before you know it, dozens of hours of time have all been spent focused on a slide deck. And it might be a good slide deck. It might be an award-winning slide deck, but it's a slide deck. Your presentation is you speaking to human beings. You need to think of your slide deck as a dessert, maybe an appetizer, but your ideas, the words coming out of your mouth are the main course. Think of it this way. You wouldn't ever go with your friends and say, hey, let's go to this new restaurant. Appetizers are awful. Main course is awful, but it's got a good dessert. And let's go there for the whole night for our dinner. You would never do that. A good dessert alone doesn't make the meal. Great slides will never, ever, ever make for a compelling presentation. The presentation comes from you, your voice, your stories, your interaction, your eye contact with people. So by all means, use slides if it helps the audience, and that means images, not text. But do not use slides as an excuse to do the real work, which is how can I come up with something interesting to say? How can I come up with good examples and stories for my audience? Because it's far, far easier to start gathering and collating data points and facts and numbers and organizing them on a slide. Your slide deck is not your presentation. You speaking is your presentation. Hi, I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for joining me. We are live. This is the TJ Walker Success Channel. We come live to you every single week right here at 10:45 a.m. Eastern Time. We go for about an hour or so. And this is a collaborative event. This is a place where you can come talk about your latest promotion, your latest speech, your latest YouTube video, anything you're doing that relates to communication, as well as personal development. And we have a whole cast of friends and colleagues here. Barb Tomlin is here, our fantastic community manager and Facebook manager, one of our top students and a top entrepreneur in his own right. Cesar Fernando is here. Sam Post is here. Santiago, one of our newest and most outstanding students, is with us. Moss Miller, as well as Kevin. We have a lot going on in the next hour. I'm going to be getting feedback from you. I've got a new video editor who's doing two different versions of videos for me with light and dark background. And we want your input, and you'll get to decide which one we use. I'm also going to do sort of a live reaction. I haven't seen this video yet, but he's a rising star in comedy and in the pop culture scene. Matt Rife, one of the most successful new up-and-coming comedians. I'll be analyzing his most recent appearance on The Tonight Show. But first, let's go to Santiago. We're going to analyze your latest presentation that you were nice enough to post. And you posted it right on YouTube. We'll try to get you some extra views as well. Let me pull this up. But first, how are you, Santiago?
I'm doing great, thanks. A little bit of a cold, but I'm doing fine otherwise. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you sound fine, and we're glad you're here. Let's go ahead and pull up your video, and we'll take a look at it. And my first thing I'm going to say is not telling you what you've done wrong, and it's not even telling you what you've done right. My first thing I'm going to do is simply ask you, what did you like about how you presented here? What were you trying to do? And did you see any improvement over your previous one? So let me go ahead and share. I'm going to go ahead and share this one moment.
Do you want me to answer now, or shall I
No,
wait
no.
until
Let me
after?
let's
Yeah,
play a few seconds of it
yeah, go
and
ahead.
help remind you, give everyone a taste of it.
If you know me, you know that I'm not a big fan of life hacks or quick fixes. They usually don't work. But there is one magic trick that I think can help people solve a lot of problems. True quick fix. And that's incubation. One trick to solve them all. Do you have problems with your project? Incubate. Do you have problems with your inner demons? Incubate. Having troubles perhaps remembering the names of your parents in law? One thing.
Okay, we're 30 seconds in. Tell me, what were you trying to do here, and what do you like about how you came across?
I tried to hook the audience from the beginning, and I think this was an improvement. This is my second video that I've done on YouTube, so I'm still gaining experience. And on my first video, one of the critique were that I waited too long before I revealed the the um, the answer to the question. And so I was trying to expose it from the get-go and get people to get curious about incubation. What could incubation be in the context of problem solving, and getting to or becoming aware of complex problems or
Okay. So let me toss out a question to the group here. And there's no right or wrong answer, but let me know if you are intrigued. Has he aroused your curiosity, or are you confused and lost, or both? Does anyone want to share an answer to that question of what he's talked about? Cesar.
I uh, I found your video interesting, but I think that it was a bit confusing at the beginning, especially with the word that you use. Can you use a different word besides incubation?
I think
That is
Or
my
that's
and
yeah,
and
go ahead.
Cesar, I agree with you. I don't know that you need to use a different word, but if you're going to use a word that people aren't used to using or they're used to using in a certain way, define it so people know what you're talking about. Let's watch a little bit more. Visually, the lighting is pretty good. Your head is still too low. Your head needs to be up at the top of the screen. Look at Kevin for a moment. Kevin at the bottom of your screen. His head is almost touching the top of his screen, and Cesar as well. You're too low down here. The the wall is nice because there's some texture to it. It's not a completely flat surface, but the door frame I think is distracting.
Yeah,
So I
definitely.
would be a little bit cautious about that. Okay, let's take a look again and watch a little bit more.
Thing.
And,
Incubate. No, but jokes aside, remember the name of this magic trick. Incubation. Basically, what you do is that you disconnect from your actual problem. I'll tell you how it works and what you can do to implementing it today. I discovered incubation by chance when I was doing research. During my PhD, I was one
okay,
day trying to
let's
solve
do.
this genetic pathway, a complex pathway involving my favorite.
So we're almost 60 seconds in. Do me one favor right now and tell me in one sentence, what is incubation?
It's a disconnection from your problem solving to be able to solve the problem.
So it's distancing. Okay. So when I think of incubation, and and forgive me, I'm one of these ignorant people who only speaks one language. In the English language, incubation to me means a very specific things. I think of like an an egg that was premature and is incubating, and there's a heater around it, and it's an incubation period. So the egg is there, it didn't stay in long enough. Or an idea can incubate because and you're thinking about it all day. You're living with it. It's incubating. I think of it as you know, something in the oven is cooking. It doesn't sound like that's exactly what you're. Maybe it's related,
Well, if you
but I'm
think about it,
completely
the it's a passive activity in which something is still happening in the background. So it's like the egg that is warmed up. Something is happening in the egg. So and at some point, it whatever is happening inside the egg will reveal itself. But it's a passive thing. So in that sense, it's a type of incubation.
Okay, so I'm thinking of like I've had friends who've had triplets prematurely, so they have to go into this incubation center in the intensive care unit, and there's doctors running around and there's nurses running around. It's a very active thing to keep these babies alive in these and they have incubation tubes. So that's what lost me there, and so that's where the confusion is, and I think Cesar felt that. I don't know if anyone else did. So you're playing on a term. I'm hearing you're using a term several times. You have the
Well, it's not my
graphics
own.
up.
It's not my own term. It's a concept from psychology. So I didn't invent it, and but I think you're right that I should maybe have explained the concept a little bit more
Right.
from the beginning,
Yeah.
right? To avoid this type of confusion, because obviously, if you didn't understand it, then it means that I didn't do a good job in
Yeah,
explaining
and
it.
I don't
And
mean to I don't mean to suggest you made up stuff or you're a liar or anything, but
no,
part of the
no,
challenge with language is we need to be aware because almost every word has multiple meanings. And you need to have some general sense of what's the most common meaning this word is going to have with this audience. So if you're talking to YouTube, it may be the audience you care about does get it. Maybe you're talking to just professional psychologists and they know exactly what you're talking about. So the problem might be me or the fact that we put together a little focus group here that isn't representative. But I do want you to give some thought to that. And
definitely.
even professional audiences, quite often, they may have a perception of a term that they read in textbooks all the time, but it's not how they use it in common language on a daily basis. And there still might be a disconnect. So try to use the spoken language in a way where you feel like people are not going to have to sit there and translate and think, oh, does this really mean this? Or what does this actually mean? So
Yeah.
a little more clarity, because I love your speaking tone. I love your speed. I love your volume. I love the hand movement, the face movement, the eye expression. You've got so many things going on on the performance aspects and the stylistics. But if the audience is confused too long, if you're making them work too long to figure out what's he talking about here, unfortunately, in the modern world we live in, the default response is let me go to plan B and see if I got any interesting emails, texts, direct messages if people are confused for too long. Okay, let's get some other perspectives here. Kevin, I'd like your assessment of what we saw from Santiago so far. And then Barb, and forgive me for going out of order, but Santiago, tell me anything else you liked about what you saw in your presentation. Any other improvement?
Okay. So remember, I'm a writer. My background is writing, and this is the first time that I actually create videos, and I see the difference between writing, where you have quite some space to explain this type of concepts, and maybe even from the beginning. And with the YouTube videos, I get the feeling you need to capture your audience immediately. And this is something that I'm getting used to now. And with all these comments, I'm trying to tweak a little bit every time. I think that I've somehow, something that I liked was that I think I managed to tweak the answer to the video or the answer to the question, so that it appears a little bit sooner. And for next time, I will develop that into trying to explain it in a a bit summarized what it means before going on with the story or going on with giving examples and this kind of thing. So, but I agree with you. I'm happy with the way that I articulate. This is something that I've had a little bit of difficulties with before starting to record, and I'm quite happy with it. Of course, I still cringe a bit when I watch it, but that's okay.
Well, I didn't see anything cringeworthy there. I definitely didn't see anything cringeworthy. And again, you look good, you sound good, you're coming across comfortable, confident, relaxed. Your lighting is good. The relatively minor things of trying to have your head a little closer to the top.
Yeah.
I would crop it so that we don't see the doorway. It's a little distracting. But otherwise, that looks good. And here's the fine line, the delicate line you have to navigate. If you're too straightforward and so simple and so straightforward, it can seem boring to people. Like, yeah, that's obvious. I understand. If it's too many curves and too indirect, people can get lost and not know what you're talking about, and you lose them. So it's a delicate balance of how you can say something provocative, hook people, but then let them really understand a point so that they don't feel confused. Let's do this was 5 minutes and 47 seconds. Nothing wrong with the length. Give me a 30-second version right now so that I can be interested in what you're saying, but feel like I understand what you're talking about. So if you want to use a word like incubation, describe it in the simplest terms that you think the audience here would understand. Can you give us just a 60-second version?
I'll try. Yes, definitely. So sometimes when you're trying to solve a complex problem, the best thing to do is to let go of everything and just separate yourself from that particular problem and go and do something else that doesn't require a lot of focus. So in a way, you're passively letting your brain connect the dots in the background. What you're doing is that you're relaxing your brain, you're relieving a little bit of the pressure that you have, and you let the brain come up with the solution without you even noticing it. And that's the definition of incubation. That's a quick hack or quick fix that everybody can use, and it's one of the few ones that I
okay. So now
use.
that makes sense to me. That makes sense. And the challenge to you is how can you then quickly give an example that I haven't heard, that most people haven't heard before? Because most people have heard this concept if they follow personal development at all, because the classic example is people who've won Nobel Prizes in physics and other fields, science fields, typically have twice as many hobbies, or they have like 2 serious hobbies versus the people who get nominated and don't win. So people who are the most successful in life typically really take themselves out of their professional work life and do something like rock climbing, or they're world champions in crossword puzzles and things like that. So I just remember that anecdotally. Think of something that will instantly make someone visualize it. And ideally, it could be a personal experience or someone you work with, or an example we haven't heard before. And that's what I think will make it even more powerful.
Great points.
And Barb, anyone else want to have final thoughts on Santiago's presentation? And we want to hear from a few other folks too.
TJ, I'd like to just step in. We've got a couple more students who have joined us here in the studio. And this is the first that we would actually fill up the whole quadrant you see on screen. So let's bring them up.
I made a mistake. I hadn't slid down the thing, so I didn't see it. So Henry has joined us. Hi, Henry. Thanks for joining us. And Manav has joined us. And Manav is a special guest. He's one of the new editors that I'm working with. And he has, we thought we would actually get the wisdom of the crowd right here. Manav did a recent short video for me. And he did a couple of different backdrops with different colors. And he said, TJ, which one do you like the best? Which one do you not like? And I said, unfortunately, I'm colorblind. I'm the worst person to ask. So I asked if he could come on board and maybe give his thoughts on it, and then we'll just play each one. So Mana, first of all, thanks for joining us. How are you today?
Thank you, sir. I'm really glad to be here with you today. Okay, so English isn't my first language, so I'm sorry if I made a lot of mistakes. But yeah, I'm really glad to be here.
You've only made one mistake, and that is telling us English wasn't your first language, because your English sounds great to us.
Thank
so
you.
far,
Thank you,
your
sir.
vocabulary's been great. Your grammar's been great. So
Thank you.
don't tell anyone. It sounds great to us. And Henry, you're next on deck. We'll be coming up with you, and I really appreciate you stopping by. But Manaf, we're going to play the two videos that you created, and just take a quick vote because I really don't have a strong opinion, because as I mentioned, I don't really see color. So, but most of the people do, obviously. So I'm going to show this video, and these are very short, by the way. Is it a good idea to practice a speech or presentation in front of a mirror? Let's find out. Is it a good idea to practice a speech or presentation in front of a... Wait a minute. Is my nose a little crooked? Did my eyes get beat? What's happening to my hairline? That's the problem with practicing in front of a mirror. You start to scrutinize yourself. Everybody has something they don't like about their own face or their jaw or their hairline. It's very hard to multitask. If you're practicing in front of a mirror, thinking about what to say, but also looking at yourself, you're trying to do two things at once. That's why you're far better off practicing in front of a video camera in your cell phone or a webcam. That way you can just focus on speaking, not think about analyzing yourself, finish the presentation, then you can hit play. Now you can put your critical thinking cap on. You can analyze, critique yourself, figure out what's working, what isn't working, how can you improve the next one. Okay, I was thinking this was a short one. I really like it, man, if I got to tell you, but let's just stick with the plan, which is let's get feedback from people on whether they like the light or dark background. This was a 2-minute, 28-second video, which is not a long YouTube video. I was thinking it was a short one, meaning less than 60 seconds. We're now going to watch the short version, a different color version. This is the red background. And I just want to know what people think, and then we'll have a brief conversation. Is it a good idea to practice a speech or presentation in front of a mirror? Let's find out. Is it a good idea to practice a speech or presentation in front of a... Wait a minute. Is my nose a little crooked? Did my eyes get beat? What's happening to my hairline? That's the problem with practicing in front of a mirror. You start to scrutinize yourself. Everybody has something they don't like about their own face or their jaw or their hairline. It's very hard to multitask. If you're practicing in front of a mirror, thinking about what to say, but also... So again, I don't know anything about color, but what I do know is direct marketers around the world will all say the same thing, which is you can have two exact same pieces of direct mail or a magazine copy. You change one color on the signature and it completely changes the result and the reaction. So I do know enough about color to know it does have an impact on the user experience. So if you liked, well, just weigh in. We're still small enough that people can just speak out. Who wants to weigh in on which one they preferred? Or do you not care? You think they're both fun? Okay, Kevin, go ahead.
So I actually kind of preferred the red specifically because it caught my attention right away. And I actually didn't notice visually on the gray one, it didn't catch me until I went to the SpongeBob thing because of the bright color flash. So I thought that was a really good technique. Otherwise, I liked the way that it was framed and everything like that as well. And then just to comment, I just need to put this out there. I don't mean to deter this conversation, but compared to like Santiago's video that we looked at earlier, I thought what TJ's video did really well was immediately asked a question, and that got me thinking, do I? And then I was engaged while you explained a little bit further what I was about to take a look at. And so for me, that is a helpful tip from Manav's video here that I think TJ or Santiago, you could apply in your own is, get my attention that way. I think in your video, you initially like said something that you didn't like or didn't believe, and I was like, okay. And then, but for me, it was a quick way for me to ask a question of myself that caught me and hooked me right away. So that's what I think was working.
Okay, thanks for your insights, Kevin. Henry, which backdrop did you prefer?
I love the comparison, and immediately I got hooked on the red background compared to the earlier one, which was dull, and somehow it even affected the way I was taking in the message. Maybe because I got the first compared to the second. So again, like Kevin says, asking a question, it helps even with the background because it is lively, the background is lively, and the question gets the person to really pay attention. I love the red because it's brighter. Thank you.
Okay, that's 2 for red. And Cesar, someone else had their hand up. Does anyone else want to weigh in on that? Okay.
Yes, I do prefer the red background for all the reasons that the prior speakers expressed. I do have one suggestion overall in your new videos. I think they're great. They're catchy. They immediately get attention, and they convey the message in a very short time. The suggestion that I have is that I don't know if this is on purpose, but TJ, you look too low resolution. I think that your presence, yourself, needs to be enhanced on the video. Maybe increasing the sharpness, lowering the light, because you look too ghosty. That's my opinion. But as always, your content oversees anything that.
Well, and thank you. And I especially appreciate, I mean, everyone loves praise. I love praise, but I especially appreciate highly, highly specific criticism as you just delivered. I do agree with you, and I'm in the process of trying to basically scrap my entire studio and get, probably 3 4K cameras in here because I'm using my main studio where I shot this video is about 15 feet away from me with a green screen and lights, but it's now an 8-year-old camera, so it's not state of the art. So I plan on doing serious upgrades very soon. So your point is extraordinarily well taken. So Manaf, I think we'll go with the red. I mean, I think that's pretty clear. I like the red better too, but I don't trust my judgment on color. So let's go with the red. Manaf, before you go, if you could just give people a 30-second version of your services, explain that, how people work with you, and also post a link to your website or your main way you like people to get a hold of you so we can try to get some extra business for you. Because I do know an awful lot of people like talking, but they're like me. They're intimidated by this whole editing process, and that's what's holding them back from starting a YouTube channel, a Facebook, all these other things. And there are a lot of skilled professionals like Manaf in the world who are good at doing that thing. Sometimes people act like I'm crazy because I don't edit, and I say, well, I like food, but if I had ran a restaurant, I wouldn't grow my own food. I like clothes, but I don't make my own clothes. I like videos, but I'm not going to edit my own videos. It's different skill set. So, man, if you could give us sort of the 30-second summary of you and then post a link so we can try to send some people your way.
Yeah. I think your analogy is great for the restaurant analogy. So first of all, let me introduce myself. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Manaf Nimsi. I'm 19 and I'm from Tunisia. I'm the owner and founder of Easy Content. I will post the link. We basically help creators with their video content creation, like thumbnails, editing videos, short form content, uploading the content, SEO, all this kind of stuff like that. As you said, people don't like doing because it takes a lot of time, energy, and it's boring, and nobody want to do it. So
Just you
yeah,
listing, man, I'm sorry, just you listing all those things, my eyes glazed over and I almost fell asleep, which is a good reminder of why I need someone like you in my corner, because you have the discipline to focus on all of these highly technical tasks. Forgive me for interrupting. Please continue.
yeah, no problem. Yeah, as you said, like personally, I enjoy doing it. I don't get why people don't enjoy doing it. I enjoy it. That's why I can make some good quality videos. But yeah, that's it. I'm currently. We don't have a website now. We are building it, and I can link you the our Twitter account where we post like our videos
Yeah,
before and after.
please post in the comments your Twitter handle, your LinkedIn, and any other way people can get a hold of you. So thanks so
Yeah,
much for stopping by. Happy to have you stay, but we got to move on to Henry now.
thank
And
you.
Henry, tell us what you're up to and how we can possibly help you today.
Great morning, everyone. My name is Henry Luyombia. I'm a mental health consultant. I also do advocacy and support with immigrants here in Canada. This week, I was presenting at a group of workplace individuals, and I think the presentation was received very well. However, I was sharing a little bit of a personal story, and I got a little bit nervous. This was an incident of racism. The presentation was on the impact of racism on mental health. But as I was sharing my story, my voice started breaking. And so my question is, how do we handle nervousness and anxiety when most of the presentation is going well, but then you get to this point where even the topic of racism in many communities and societies is hard to talk about? I would very much appreciate anyone who can share some insights and even handling questions that are a little bit sensitive in nature. Thank you so much. And to the previous speakers, your presentations were enlightening. Santiago and Menef and everyone, I thank you. Back to you.
Well, Henry, thanks so much for sharing that, and I'll answer that in just a moment, plus get perspective from others. I should point out to Manif and others, please link not just in our private chat here in StreamYard, but please post on the actual YouTube video in the conversation. That way, when people are watching the replay, they will see it there, and we can try to steer more business your way. So, Henry, question for you. Did you rehearse your entire presentation on video? And if so, how many times?
I did not rehearse my presentation on video, and that is a mistake I acknowledge. I only did it halfway, and it was like me talking to someone, recording myself on audio. Again,
Yeah.
I did not plan very well because of time. It is something that I have learned.
So everyone, and myself included, although it's been a while, have given a speech and all of a sudden we get a little nervous and our voice can shut down. It can happen. What I have found is the easiest way to stop that from happening is for you to frankly be a little bored with it. And the way to be bored with it is to have practiced it several times and watched it on video. Because if you practice it, record it on video, watch it, do it again, it starts to become old hat. And it's just human nature not to be as excited or charged or moved by something you've already been experienced many times. I mean, if you've ever watched a movie, the fourth time you've watched it is probably not as exciting as the very first time you saw that great movie or the first time you saw a Broadway show, because you kind of know what's coming. And this is why a lot of times people ask me for advice on they're giving a funeral for a loved one who passed away. They don't really want to start blubbering and falling apart. And the way to do it is practice a bunch of times, and it just frankly becomes a little boring for you. You can stay composed because you can be focused on delivering the content, and you're emotionally a step or two away because you've already experienced it a couple of times. Now, those of you who've been in my communication skills courses know I'm always talking about all the good reasons and all the things you should, all the reasons why you should want to practice any presentation on video. Well, double that when it comes to a sensitive issue where you think you might get emotional or extra tense, because it releases the tension. And that's just human nature. Anytime you've done something a whole bunch of times, it's just harder to get nervous. It's easy. It's been a long time since I've been on a first date, but think about when you were a teenager or something, you're on a first date, it's pretty easy to be nervous. If you're going out with your spouse and you've been married for 10 or 20 years, chances are you're not going to be nervous going out on a date. You might have other tensions or frustrations, but you're probably not going to be nervous. Why? Well, because you've done this thousands of times. So that's really my number one suggestion for you, Henry. Anyone else want to weigh in on that? Because Kevin, you've been a broadcast journalist. You've done a lot of speaking.
Yeah.
What's your advice to someone if they're in the actual moment? I mean, my advice is good, but it's worthless if you can't hop in a time machine and go back to it. If you're actually in the moment,
Yeah.
you feel your voice croak up. What's your advice, Kevin?
Breathe and slow down. The best advice is to literally just slow down and take a breath. A lot of times what I've found in that situation, especially when you're talking to people and are expecting a response, is that we don't slow down. So some of the things I always want to do is like take that breath before you start talking. And then that gives the other person that you're talking to an opportunity to finish their sentence or say something else that might, I don't want to use the word disarm you, but might give you some more insight. But absolutely take the opportunity to breathe and slow down while you're in the moment. But otherwise, TJ, spot on. Practice. So, but yeah, breathe and use that breath to take the time to recenter yourself.
And Henry, let me give you one other piece of advice.
Thank you, Kevin.
If you feel like your throat is closing up, stop, take a sip of water. Put it down. No one will ever remember. No one will ever say, well, that presentation was great, except midway through, he stopped for 2 seconds to take a glass of water. No one will remember that. We've all seen, some of the most accomplished, best stand-up comedians in the world. I'm going to go see Jerry Seinfeld in January here in South Florida. He does it. All great stand-up comedians do it. Is they're in the middle of their act. It's not necessarily because their throat closed up, but it gives you a second or two to think, reflect. It's also nice on the throat to get a little moisture too. So feel free to do that. That is one reason why, certainly if I'm going to be speaking for more than 5 minutes, I like to have a glass of water nearby for that very reason, because your throats can get dry, but also you might want a second to think about something, and also gives you an opportunity to glance down at notes you might have on the table next to where that glass of water is.
Thank you, TJ.
Hope that's helpful.
It is very helpful. I appreciate it, Kevin and TJ.
Great, thanks. Let's bring on Sam. Sam, how are you today? And tell us what you've been working on.
Hi, thank you, TJ. I'm fine today. I just have some questions that I have been concerned about and already received some answers to them from the previous presenters. I got to go back a few pages here. I've been furiously taking notes. I find for myself personally that I was raised in a rural agricultural environment, and I spent the first 18 years of my life surrounded by silence. And being closely connected with nature as a youngster, silence was my natural state. It was my natural condition. So now that when I try to express myself through communications, through speaking, it takes a lot of effort. It takes a lot of concentration. It takes a lot of focus. I struggle with social anxiety. And so much of what I heard this morning has given me answers to those struggles. But I'm just wondering, I guess, if I could summarize it up in a sentence, is with a person like me who has a natural preference for silence and solitude at one end of the spectrum, how can I move myself toward the other end of the spectrum where I'm feeling comfortable as a public presenter of high value information? So, how does one make that journey? That's what my
So
question
I
is.
very much appreciate you sharing that. And I want to reframe things just a little. I don't want you to change who you are. I don't think you need to change who you are. What we've already seen here, I think, in a microcosm works perfectly for what can work your whole life. You came in, you've been listening quietly for 40 minutes. You then shared your thoughts for 1 minute. I didn't hear a single or ah. I didn't hear your voice drop out or croak or choke. I didn't hear verbal tics. I thought you came across extraordinarily well just then. But most of the time you were quiet. When you wanted to communicate an idea, you used the tools available. You used your voice, you used your intellect, you used your brain, you used your words, you used your vocabulary, you used your grammar. Everything was in sync to help you accomplish something, communicating and getting an answer. So I always get a little uncomfortable when people sometimes come to me and say, "Well, TJ, I'm an introvert. I want you to teach me how to be an extrovert because you got to be an extrovert to be a great speaker." No, you don't. I was not a friend of Steve Jobs, but by most indications, he was not some big backslapping expert or extrovert. He was fairly introverted a lot of time, liked to spend a lot of time at home alone. So you can be a fantastic communicator and be highly introverted. Many of the most successful authors in the world are highly introverted because they actually chose a profession where they are completely alone with their keyboard 12, 14 hours a day. But once a year, when they have a new book out, they spend 2 weeks doing 20 talk shows a day and giving speeches everywhere because they want to sell their books and communicate their message. They just turn it on and off at will based on what they need. Wondering if anyone else feels like they'd like to add something to that. Just go ahead and unmute it. Cesar, go ahead.
Well, Sam, the advice that I have for you is the one that helps me and the one that I use under different scenarios, different circumstances. First, I'd like to tell you that I understand that you like silence. I do also prefer silence. My best times is gonna when I go away by myself and just stay by the beach listening to the waves endlessly. And then I have to come back to reality, to my other worlds. And what I do is I simply become the place that I'm in. And I conform to the audience and I be myself. And I express my thoughts that I have for that audience just as I am. I don't take in, I don't take out. So just be in the moment. And of course, the water and breathing helps. And be aware of time. State your message and just your message. Thank you, leave. That's my advice.
Great point, Cesar, and I can certainly relate to you wanting to be on the beach and listen to something. I try to walk on the beach every day. People think because of my job and they see me talking all the time, they think I'm this big extrovert. And really, I'm not. I change depending on mood or time or circumstance. But I enjoy typically going for a walk each day without anyone else for an hour and a half or hour and 15 minutes, go to the beach. And I'm not listening to podcasts. Why maybe I'm not the greatest podcaster in the world is I don't want to listen to something. I want to be able to have quiet and think my own thoughts. And especially when I'm traveling, if I'm at a nice hotel restaurant and there's a nice bar with lots of activity and stuff, and I'm there alone, the hostess will often say, well, would you like to sit at the bar? I'm like, no, I'm going to sit at this table over here. I want to read, think my own thoughts, and enjoy a meal in solitude. I don't think of myself as an introvert, but I also don't really think of myself as an extrovert either. I've just, we're all different people at different times. I sometimes think that trying to put labels on ourselves doesn't help. We're putting handcuffs on ourselves. Barb, I'm wondering if you could weigh in on that, and if anyone else would like to, feel free to chime in. And Barb may have had to step away to handle some of the technical issues for us. Great. I want to throw open on the table here really any questions anyone has for me or anyone else in the group that relate to communication skills or personal development. Now's the time to do it. This is a free for all. I am going to sort of end our segment today doing a reaction to an up-and-coming comedian, his first appearance on a major national talk show. But we still have time for any questions or comments now. Anyone have a question?
I do.
Okay, go ahead.
Or maybe Manef, because I'll give you a chance to start.
It's okay. It's okay. You can start first.
The question I have, I'm trying to grow my business. I'm transitioning from 9 to 5 and like to do mental health coaching. I know this is a broader topic, and some of the courses I've enrolled through you, TJ, whether it's communications or career coach, I would need some 1 or 2 tips in order to support me in this life transition from living a 9 to 5 to start my own coaching and consulting business in the field of mental health and wellness.
I mean, my biggest piece of advice is really spend time on YouTube looking for people you admire and respect, because you'll probably be surprised. You'll find people you think, wow, they're really explaining that well, and they're a good communicator. And oh my gosh, they've got 10 million followers and subscribers, and I've never heard of them before. I've found that recently in my own niche, that there are a tremendous number of experts all over the world. And it doesn't matter if they're in Tunisia next door to Manif, or if they're in Bangalore, they can be anywhere in the world. There are experts who really have good advice, and they're attracting huge followings, and they are living life on their terms. Now, I'm not certainly saying that money is the ultimate goal or the only thing that's going to make you happy. But if you are trying to get away from a 9 to 5 job and you're not independently wealthy or a trust fund kid, we all need money. And by building a following for yourself, there's a lot of different avenues for making money, whether you're selling online courses, whether you're selling books. You get enough of an audience liking your stuff, you can make money from sponsorships and advertising. People can donate through Patreon to you if you build a following. So and I'm not shilling it here, but I do have a course on freelancing that is now a couple of years old, and how to be an independent consultant. But the number one thing I would suggest is create content daily. It doesn't have to be video, although I do think video is the most powerful way. Share your content and try to find a community of people who look to you at some level as a thought leader and as someone who's helpful. Because with that community, there's a lot of different ways. Your career will have so many different options. And that's very different from a lot of people who quit the 9 to 5 and they think, oh, I'm not, I don't have the face for the camera, or I don't like my voice. And they're in this constant cycle of calling up friends they already know, kind of begging, oh, do you know anyone who needs somebody freelance? Or do you know anyone who can throw me a couple of bucks? Or and then you're taking kind of the least lucrative type of client who's often the biggest pain. And you're stuck in this cycle of always scrapping together enough to fill up time to pay last month's rent. I've seen it a million times. So starting right at the beginning, building a larger platform for yourself where you really see yourself as a thought leader. And ideally, you try to position yourself as number one in the world for something, some specific niche. It might be you're the number one person in the world helping immigrants of color in Canada in your region. I don't know, but figure out some way you can really establish yourself so you can go deeper and deeper. That's my biggest piece of advice. Someone else was going to weigh in. Kevin.
Yeah, mine's actually super simple, and it's more of like just like a tactical thing. I also within the past year went on my own after a long career in corporate America, and for me, something that was just invaluable is when I'm about to go do all that stuff, so I don't get stuck in that rut where I'm just asking friends over and over and feeling forced to say this. I actually fill out my whole day with the calendar, much like I used to have to do in corporate America, because if I didn't, then I would find myself searching for things to do with my own time, and I find going down different rabbit holes or going to these like last minute things or putting things off. And so having that kind of that structure that corporate America once provided for me and just like instituting it on my own was like a really, really helpful for me to work towards getting independent and being successful, or whatever that looks like for you. Because it was a really hard transition to actually having to be doing something for yourself, when you're so used to doing something on other people's time. So that tactic was very helpful for me.
Well, Kevin, thanks for sharing, and I'm especially pleased we got on your calendar today.
I love this. Thanks for having me. This is actually like one of my favorite things I've done so far today, and I anticipate joining again next week as well. So thank you for hosting.
How do you put on your calendar time for just thinking and reading? I mean, Warren Buffett famously says he schedules 8 hours a day for reading and thinking, and he always says, show me someone whose calendar is completely booked with meetings, and I'll tell you someone who's not going to accomplish
Who's
much.
not
Now,
working? Yeah,
it's easy to say that. Obviously, if you're in a startup and you're on that runway up to going public, you don't have a choice. You're going to be in back-to-back meetings quite often, 14 hours a day. But how do you budget your time now for thinking time, quality thinking time, writing time, reading time?
Yeah, so I'm a morning person. So I get up every morning at 4:30 or 5 o'clock, and I mark it down 5 to 8:30 Kevin time. And I use that time. Usually I'm at the gym. Usually I'm running or writing or journaling or things like that. To Santiago's point about incubation, running is actually a huge thing where I can like start to think about my day, what I want to accomplish, or an idea that I'm trying to formulate, whether it's for a story or for a business, helping with their language. And that usually can come to me unintentionally. So it's actually just every morning when I know I can be by myself, and have that time from 5 to 8:30 every day. And then the rest of the day may have 7 or 8 meetings. It may have 1 meeting, but I know that I'm starting my day like that. For me, it's in the morning. For others, I know it's at night, but that is literally, if you look at my calendar, it's every day is Kevin time, 5 to 8:30. Forcing myself.
That's fantastic. We're about at the end of our hour. I would like to close before I go into this analysis reaction of media training skills. I would like each one of you, only if you feel like it, to share just one communications tip that you've practiced on your own, maybe your own insight, maybe something you got from somebody's class, doesn't have to be mine, But I spend an awful lot of my time trying to come up with communication tips to help people. But I want to hear from you, and let's just work our way around the room. And I see to my immediate right on the screen is Barb. And Barb, I know you're doing some technical details for us, but if we could just go around the room and share just one thing that you think has helped you either become more confident, more relaxed, or a little better as a communicator. I'd like to end that way, and then we'll say our goodbyes, and I'm going to do a quick analysis of this young comedian I was telling you about. Barb, do you have any tip you'd like to share? And if not, we'll go to Cesar next. Barb, are you with us? Whoops, we lost the mic again. And I would just say, let's do it. Let's do a 2 for 1. Any one communication tip that you want to share with us, please do so. The other thing is there's just anything else you want to put a spotlight on, your corporate website, your YouTube channel, your Facebook page, anything you want to put a spotlight on, please do so. We'll give Barb a chance at the end if she wants to weigh in. Cesar, let's go to you.
Hello, nice to be here with you. The one tip that I like to share with you is the one that has helped me the most in communicating my message. And that is, after thinking about the subject matter that I'm going to be talking about, I totally immersed in the subject and I just do it. I go and start. And I always have a positive attitude without thinking about the outcome. I just think about the message, positive, finish it. And sometimes I do 5 takes and I pick the best. I save all the mistakes, save the mistakes, and then you can have a reel of bloopers, and that catches attention. I'm going to share with you my website, and there you will find links to all the channels that I'm in social media. I invite you. You don't have to buy nothing. Just be my friend. Thank you much.
All right, Cesar, thanks so much. Moss, anything from you? And also, Moss, for some people who may be
Yeah.
just tuning in, didn't hear anything you said earlier, give us a 30-second pitch for what you're looking for in a job and why someone should hire you.
Okay. Well, I've been in desk side support for nearly 20 years, and I'm looking for a new position in Austin, Texas, now that I've relocated down here. And one thing I got this week, I started listening to Arnold Schwarzenegger's new audio book, Be Useful. And he talks about when he wanted to become an actor, how if he didn't think big, he would have maybe just gotten a bunch of roles in, minor walk-on roles in different movies. But by thinking big, he became a big star. So yeah, you have to be confident of your ability. And I've worked for many big corporations, and I have good references, so I'm not worried about getting a job, because my attitude is I'm good at what I do and I can do a good job. So you have to keep your confidence up when you're looking for new work, just like Arnold did when he broke into acting and he became a superstar.
Good point. And I do recommend the Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary out. I mean, to me, look, there's plenty of things to criticize about Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm not saying he's perfect, but I do find it at age 75, he's still so incredibly active with new books and new movies and new documentaries and he's everywhere, and he is a world-class communicator. He certainly didn't let the fact that he has an accent slow him down in any way. Santiago, let's switch to you.
Thanks. Ironically enough, my number one tip, and this is something that I'm developing now, is to use the hook in your stories to let the people know from the beginning where the story is going. It can be a hook or a lead for journalists. And this is something that I've managed to do in written language, but then now I'm training to develop that in my spoken word or whatever you want, video making, whatever you want to, which is new to me, as you know. And I appreciate that. I say ironically enough, because you all gave me the pointers today on how to improve my hook, and this is something that I'm going to work on. My next video will be about the hook. And yeah, if you're interested in it, I have a video YouTube channel where called Ivory Embassy, or it's my name, Santiago Gisler, and at this Ivory Embassy, where I talk about communication and critical thinking and problem solving, and how these three are combined into one.
Great, Santiago. And please put that in the chat so people
Sure.
can see it as it replays. And also, as soon as we're done here, this will show up as a video on demand on my YouTube channel, on the TJ Walker Success channel. Leave it as a comment too.
Right.
And frankly, if I could ask one favor of all of you, when we're done, wait a minute or two, go to my channel, just hit like for this video and leave a comment, and more people will see it and more people will hear you, and you'll get some more traction as well. So everyone can benefit. Sam, any last words?
Yeah, I just thank you, TJ. I'd just like to say that I'm a Canadian who's been highly interested in U.S. federal politics with a special focus on presidential elections ever since I was 17 years old. That's 50 years now. So one of the methods that I use to try to improve my communication skills is listening to excellent speakers. And when I was 17 years old, the most excellent speakers that I saw in my world were US federal politicians. And so I listened to them and listened to them and listened to them. And even if I disagreed what they were saying, I still listened to them. And after 50 years, I believe that I've been able to internalize a lot of the messages that I receive from excellent speakers, and those voices are implanted in my unconscious mind. So after having internalized that message, now my challenge is, how do I begin to share what I believe is of value with others? Because I'm such a timid, frightened little person. So that's my challenge. And that's why I'm here. And that's why I intend to keep coming back. So thanks for all the help today, everybody.
Well, thanks for sharing, Sam. And I noticed when you described yourself as timid, several people smiled because your voice actually sounds strong, powerful, and resolute. So it's okay to feel scared or timid or nervous. Other than right here, don't tell anyone. People won't figure it out. Henry, did we hear from you yet?
One thing that I've learned over the last several months doing courses with TJ and a few other instructors is recording oneself on video. I've been I haven't been consistent. So the number one tip I would suggest that record 1 or 2 videos and post it online every week. That, in my opinion, is a game changer. Thank you, TJ, once again, and everyone. Let's continue the discussions on YouTube, commenting on TJ's videos, and also sharing them. This space, this community is absolutely fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Henry. Appreciate your participation. Kevin.
Thank you. So 2 things. The first thing is something that I learned in college that has stuck with me forever. And that is, when you are forming a good argument or telling a good story or communicating something, it's important to lead with 25% emotion and 75% fact. And that is the great recipe on how to form a good argument or tell a good story. I don't know that, going to what Sam said about politics, that rule applies anymore today. But for me, that's absolutely helped everything that I have done, and it really makes, if you take a step back and listen to somebody who is passionate about what they do but also leads with facts, it makes them much more interesting and a reliable source. And then the second thing in practice, what I've learned, very similar to what you said, Sam, is also listening, but not just to the professionals and to Arnold, which I cannot wait to watch that documentary, by the way, but listening to other people and giving them the space and the time to be heard. And I think from a communication standpoint, a lot of people are just waiting to talk, and that's in business, in relationships, and every day. And it's not very respectful, and it's not very good to be on the other end of the conversation when you know that you're not actually being heard. So taking that time and that breath, Henry, to listen gives you an opportunity to really engage with whoever you're speaking with. So thank you, and thank you for this opportunity to speak with you all.
Thank you, Kevin. And if I could give one plug for kind of nudging you into figure out how to be your own media company.
Yeah.
Because you clearly have the communication skills
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of other assets going. And I just think that, I see it all the time, and I'm guilty of it occasionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming you're over 30. A lot of people over 30, our whole mentality is, well, the real media is the CBS affiliate in our town, or it's this or that. And that's the advantage of the people under 30, is they realize, no, there aren't any gatekeepers anymore.
Mm-hmm.
The only thing holding you back is saying interesting enough stuff to attract an audience. If you do that, you can have an impact in your community.
Yeah.
And especially if you want politicians to talk about facts, you could be the media outlet to make that happen, because we're living in a world now where politicians are largely punished for being factual. And when I'm not, this is not a political channel, and I don't want to start an ideological debate, but increasingly there's so many media out there that will actively punish political figures for stating factual accuracies, and you're rewarded for stating factual inaccuracies, because they're pandering to audiences that want that. If you go into it with the idea that you're actually going to hold people accountable on a factual basis, you could have a real impact in your community and in your state. Man, I'm glad to see you're back. I realized we had some internet connection issues earlier. We really appreciate you spending time with us from Tunisia. By the way, what time is it in Tunisia right now?
It's 5:52 p.m. here. It's
Great. Well, we're glad you're with us. Any final thoughts you had? One communication tip, because you're certainly an expert at communicating in a video format. So any tip you have and anything else you want to plug?
Yeah, I can give a tip, like in real life, when you are going to give a presentation, I feel like your tone in the beginning, the way you speak in the beginning of the presentation will set the tone of the presentation. You know, if you start slow, you can end it slow. And if you start speaking fast, you can never like calm down and go too slow. That's how I feel like in real life. For videos, like just don't take it too seriously. Like for videos, I think quantity is over quality, and some people disagree with me, but if you make a lot of videos, it becomes like something normal. You don't have to try hard for that. Like your real personality will be in front of camera one day. Like after 100 videos, it's not the same. You are not the same person in your first video and in your 50 videos and in your 100 videos, you know? So yeah, just practice, and you'll get there.
Great points. And I'm definitely a subscriber to that theory. Gary Vaynerchuk, the social media guru, really pushes that idea. He said, the debate about quantity versus quality is a fake debate. You get quality by doing more quantity. And he puts out more video than maybe anyone in the world. Hundreds and hundreds of pieces of video content per month, depending on how you count it up, sometimes 100 a day. I have recently sort of re-embraced that philosophy, and I'm now publishing 3 in a day like this when we're doing a live, 4 videos a day. So that's my final plug, is echoing what Manav says. You're going to get more comfortable by doing more. You don't have to do 4 a day like I do. but try to do more, because then each one is an experiment. Each one is sort of a mini test to see what might work out. And many of the most successful YouTubers and people on social media, they didn't have much happen for 5 years. And then one video kind of took off and it brought everything else up. Well, if you only do one video every 5 years, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
If you do one a week, it's likely to happen a lot faster. But if you do a lot more than that, your odds go up. And speaking of videos and doing a lot each day, I would very much appreciate anyone who's seeing this or with us today. Please like this video when it goes on as on demand. Leave a comment. Ideally, share it on another platform. And if you could do that with any of my other videos, I would appreciate it very much. And don't be afraid to give constructive criticism. I appreciate Cesar saying, hey, the clarity on your face isn't what it should be. Post that on a comment. I read every single comment, and everybody has strengths and weaknesses, but one of my strengths is someone can say 10 horrible things about me that are cheap shots. If there's one nugget in there that's fair, I'll fixate on that and I'll still learn from that. And it is a good skill that I think other people should try to embrace, because the human reaction is to just say, oh, this person is biased. None of that is fair, and to ignore it all. There's quite often a kernel of really valid criticism, even if there's an entire sea of negativity and cheap shots. So please keep that in mind. Everyone's welcome to stay on. I'm going to shift over for our final segment, where I'm going to give a detailed reaction to the media skills and communication skills of an up-and-coming new comedian. So I do want to thank everyone. I'm going to take you off the screen, but I'm not kicking you out of the room. You can, you're more than welcome to stay on. Oh, Barb, did you have any final comments? I know when I came to you earlier, you were tied up, but did you have any final reflections on anyone else's comments today?
I just want to thank everyone for the excellent time that they've spent with us today. I mean, so many. I took notes, so I think that's a good sign, because I've been around the circle there quite a long time, and boy, Kevin, exceptional, and Santiago, whoa, and then Sam, and Henry, and Moss, oh my gosh, and of course Cesar. Love you guys. It was great. Thank you so much for participating today.
And Barb, you aroused my curiosity now, because I mean, I heard a lot of interesting things today. What actually jumped out at you where you said, you know what, I'm going to take the time with all the other stuff you're doing to pull out a pad and pen, or perhaps you typed it. What did you make a note on of today's conversation?
Oh gosh.
And it's okay to look at your notes.
Yeah, right. Because, well, Kevin, I can't even read my writing here, but
I'm guilty of that myself.
Yeah. So. You know what? Don't do that to me, because I cannot read that. I was behind the scenes, fellas. I'm dealing with 2 Welsh corgis here at my feed. And they are on their own time schedule, and they're not happy. So it's been quite a challenge today.
Great. Well, we'll let you tend to those, Barb, and thanks so much for all your help and coordination in making this all happen. So I'm going to shift over now to the analysis. Again, I'm going to sort of take us off the screen, but you're more than welcome to stay. Thanks again. And just take a second to do this. And again, thank you everyone for taking your valuable time to spend with us today. Very much appreciated. So I'm going to hop in. Let me just share my screen and get this going. And this is a note to the editor who's going to turn this into a separate video. We're starting this at, I guess, a little before 1 hour and 15 minutes in. So let me pull. Oh, there we go. Perfect. And I'm just going to get this set up, and then we're going to hop in. but I don't know why the screen went black. Let me pull it back. And so this is the difference between live versus the video, edited video. All this stuff now where I'm wasting time and fumbling about will be edited out in the final version. So, but what I haven't seen is why this is actually turning black, because I want to have the comedian's face and image show up. So I'm going to hit a refresh to see if we can come up with it, see what that works. And of course, that's going to give me an ad. We have to edit all that out too.
With our holiday price match guarantee. If you
And it's not even one I can skip through.
Target purchases made
So
between 10
apologies for this, those of you watching the live feed.
Feel the love there.
Okay. All right. Now I'm going to start, and we're at almost 1:16. Matt Rife, he's one of the up-and-coming comedians attracting so much attention across the internet, across Netflix, and broadcast media outlets like The Tonight Show. Hi, I'm TJ Walker, a communications coach, and I'm going to give you a live, unfiltered reaction to Matt Rife's communication skills. He's certainly a skilled communicator who is taking the entertainment world by storm. Let's dive in, analyze exactly what he's doing.
I am so underdressed. You didn't tell me what I was following.
Yeah. Sorry, there's John Oliver feathers around.
So right out of the gate, first thing out of his mouth, he's basically talking about his insecurity. Now, I wouldn't recommend that for a lot of politicians or CEOs, but he's a young comedian, and this is a huge venue for him. So he's coming across right away as likable and as relatable.
I apologize if you're allergic.
No apology. I actually ran into him earlier. He tried to sell me a CD at Times Square in that same outfit.
No, that wasn't him. That was Elmo. Yeah.
Oh, got it.
But I want to talk to you about everything in your whole career, but I want to get to know you a little bit too.
So he looks relaxed. His hands are moving. His body's moving. But when he's listening, he's just putting one hand on top of another. He's looking at Jimmy Fallon, exactly as you would expect someone to do. So he's not slouching. He's not overly relaxed, but he certainly looks comfortable, relaxed, and like he's in his element.
I just want to say your problematic world tour, you announced it, and in 48 hours you sold 600,000 tickets.
Yeah. Insane. I know.
What's that feel like?
Very expressive. That's not something somebody does if they've memorized a script and here's everything I'm going to say. So he's coming across quite genuine here and not afraid to use his mouth, use his face in an expressive way to convey emotion. Now, I should note the New York Times did a recent gigantic front page story about him talking about a particular issue, and this makes some people uncomfortable, but they talked about the fact that he's really good looking and people are used to comedians not being good looking and comedian men not being good looking. And is it fair? Do we even want good looking comedians, male comedians? So he's definitely coming across like he doesn't take himself too seriously and coming across as relatable and down to earth. So that, I think, is not as big of an issue for a lot of people. Let's look at more.
I mean, it feels incredible, man. I went from, literally July of last year, I was considering quitting comedy and everything. I couldn't sell any tickets at any comedy club. I wasn't getting any kind of break. And then, so from going from playing clubs for 35 people who got free tickets to...
So look at the commanding use of hands. Going from a club where people had 35 tickets to selling 600,000. He's expressive. His hands are moving. His body's moving. His torso is moving. All of those things are good because nervous people tend to freeze. So even though he's extraordinarily young, still in his 20s, he's coming across like a real seasoned pro. I have to assume part of it is he spends so much time on camera. His whole rise to fame is because he is extraordinarily popular on social media. That's how he's able to sell 600,000 tickets so quickly, is because he's cultivated and built his own fan base online.
We broke Ticketmaster, which is insane. So yeah, if Travis Kelce, if it doesn't work out, holler at your boy.
Yeah, yeah.
It's been unreal, man. My entire life has changed in a matter of like 14 months. I'm so grateful.
I heard about this story that I kind of related to because you started comedy around 15?
Yeah, 15. Yeah. My grandpa used to take me to the Columbus Funny Bone in Ohio every Wednesday, and it was a bringer show, like a lot of open mics are.
Detail. That's what makes someone interesting. It wasn't just I started comedy young. It was, no, I started at 15. My grandpa, and he mentioned his name, took me to the Funny Bone it's the specific detail, bringing in another character, a setting, action. That's what makes for compelling storytelling. And that's what makes for a good guest, too, on a major talk show.
You have to bring.
Oh, a bringer, yeah.
Yeah, usually like 5 people who have to pay for tickets.
So the way it works is if you go and perform, you have to actually bring 5 people that buy tickets and buy drinks.
Yeah, and hope they laugh.
And hope that they laugh. Yeah, they just want business.
Oh, of course.
They don't really care about your career.
No, not at all. And all my friends were still in high school, obviously, so they couldn't come attend. So my grandpa would buy 5 tickets. So the club would think I had 5 people there to perform.
Yeah.
And then he would just watch me tank week after week after week.
He was the only guy?
No, but he loved it. He was my biggest supporter. Like,
Self-deprecating humor is always a big winner. It doesn't matter if you're a rich CEO, a politician, but especially a comedian. So he's now reached the heights, maybe not the pinnacle. He's still a young man, but he's at a very high level in his comedy career. But he's not afraid to talk about when he was starting out. He completely bombed, didn't get laughs, had to really pay his dues. And thankfully for him, his grandpa was willing to pay 5 tickets just so he was able to perform. Interesting, fascinating origin story. Very well done.
If it wasn't for my grandpa, I'd have absolutely no sense of humor. I never would have got my start into comedy. So
good,
it's one of those.
Thank you. Good to have that support.
Thank you.
What would
Showing gratitude. It always makes someone seem more endearing, more likable. He's doing a great job there, thanking his grandpa in highly specific ways.
Do you remember what your set was when you were 15 years old?
Oh, nonsense. Not stand-up at all. I also, for the first 6 months of doing stand-up, had no idea what a set was. Nobody told me. I would just go up there and do 5 minutes of...
Ken, look at the ease. He doesn't say, nobody told me what a set was. He says, nobody told me what a set was. So everything is in sync. His hands are moving. His body is moving. His face is moving. His head is moving. His eyes are moving. All of these movements are perfectly in sync to make him look completely relaxed, completely comfortable, confident, relaxed in his own skin. And that's what makes someone a good guest for a talk show. It's also what makes someone a great communicator.
Like ridiculous things over and over again, but it was never like kid stuff. I was never telling like school jokes. I was never making like poop jokes or anything.
No, it wasn't.
It was always for adults because I was a kid performing for adults in a comedy club, which I think inevitably helped me transition because around the time I was like 23, 24, people start looking at you a little bit differently. You're no longer like the novelty of like, oh, he's a kid, give him a chance. At 24, people were like, we paid to get in here, make us laugh.
Yeah.
So I think that helped that transition be a little bit smoother. That I never.
Great use of dialogue. Notice the change of tone. We paid to get here, make us laugh. So changing the tone, changing the direction, looking over here, doing the act out. Great comedians do that in their sets. But great guests on talk shows also do it when they are retelling a story to the host. He's doing a great job there.
Never really played into the young aspect.
And you were saying earlier, I'm sorry that I went over it, you were thinking about quitting?
And just look how he's holding it. He's holding himself. He doesn't look stiff or nervous, but he's clearly holding himself high, leaning forward a little, and looking at the host, which is exactly what you want to do. Some people make the mistake of they're saying, oh, just be relaxed. And then they sit back. And even if you're not sloppy or overweight, the camera latches on to when it's closest to your stomach. It's just not a flattering look. And he's holding himself high, but not stiff or uncomfortable looking. That's great.
Yeah, dude. I mean, I've been doing comedy for 11 years as of last year. 10 of it in LA, and it's just, it beats you down hearing like so much rejection. Like I couldn't get a special anywhere. I couldn't get on a TV show anywhere. I couldn't get on the Jimmy Fallon show.
Yeah. Wow.
I know, I submitted a couple times. We'll talk after.
Okay, yeah.
No, all of these things just weren't adding up. And after a certain point, you go, am I delusional? Like maybe I'm not funny. Maybe I'm not supposed to do this. And then just one random video kind of changed.
Am I delusional? Should I be doing this? Again, he's coming across very authentic, expressive, not afraid to share his journey, not afraid to share the down moments. It's not just, oh, look how great I am, how wonderful I am, everyone come to my comedy. He's really sharing about his journey. That makes a lot of sense. Now I'm hearing something that is really getting my ears to prick up. He says it all came down to one video. That's aroused my curiosity. Let's see what he has to say.
Everything.
Yeah, it was a TikTok video.
Yeah, I reluctantly started posting on TikTok beginning of last year. I've always hated social media. I think it's so negative and it just stresses me out.
Yeah.
But one day I was just like, how long can I go against the grain and it not work? So I started posting sporadically. And then I was at the Just for Laughs Festival, which is like the most notorious comedy festival in comedy, besides the New York Comedy Festival.
Where I got my start.
Is it really?
Yeah, New Faces.
No way. Never got New Faces.
All right, well,
I know. So I'm at this festival, and even that was a funny circumstance because over the pandemic, my friend Paulie Leah, who's one of my best friends, great comic, we developed this show over the pandemic that was a dual-hosted improvised show.
Yeah.
And Just for Laughs wanted to pick up that show for the festival, but they didn't want me. They wanted Paul and not me. And Paul, being a good friend, was like, I refuse to do the show without him. Absolutely not. So they said, well, we're not going to pay him. We're not going to pay for his travel. But if he wants to perform, he can perform. So I was like, you know what? I'll swallow my pride. I want to experience what this festival is about. We went. It was arguably the best show of the festival. But before that show, the same night, we were at dinner, and I was about to post this clip called The Lazy Hero, which I had already edited. It was at a show in Phoenix, Arizona for like 75 people. And I was just sitting there.
Okay, when he's talking about I was about to edit, he doesn't just say it, he acts it out. The act out is always going to make you more interesting, it'll make you livelier, more engaging.
So depleted and depressed at, being at a place I wasn't even invited to perform at.
Not afraid to talk about his emotion. I was depressed.
Wow. And I was like, this is so stupid. Why am I even bothering posting this stuff? It's not going to do anything. And my friend was like, you already edited it. Just post it and then we'll have a fun time tonight. And then that video over the next couple of days went insanely viral, like 20 to 30 million views. And then that made every other video on my profile go viral. And then everything just kind of exploded out of nowhere.
30 million views.
Yeah, dude, insane. Life-changing, man. I'm so grateful.
Matt Rife, an extraordinary story. He's a compelling communicator. The big lesson I take away is it's not enough to be talented. It's not enough to spend a decade. You have to keep at it, keep getting feedback. And what changed his life was, in fact, posting video on social media. And even though he had a lot of videos that hadn't done much, it took one going viral and it brought up everything else. Now, not everyone is going to get a video that goes viral to 20 million, but in your industry, in your niche, you can have something viral for you. If you're a local psychologist in your community and you and all your other local psychologists never get more than 50 views on your video, and yours all of a sudden gets 1,900, and it's the right people in your community, that's viral for you. So Matt Rife, extraordinary communicator, young comedian. I think we'll be seeing a lot of him in the future. I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for joining me. And so that concludes that segment. A little note to my editor. We'll do that. I do want to just point out, we've had so many of our friends continue to stay on. So I want to thank a special thanks to Caesar, Sam, Kevin, and Manaf and Barb. Thanks so much. See you next time. And if you could, please like this video, share it, ideally on Facebook, someplace else, TikTok, any place else you can, and leave a comment, even if it's criticism of my earpiece or my hair or the fuzziness of the quality. Really, any comment is helpful. Thanks so much. See you next time.